I won't use the word appreciate, but the process has been inclusive, and that's one of my favorite words, to be inclusive, to be able to take part in the process, and to figure out how the work we do here overall affects the state of Texas, and of course, primarily will affect or impact the areas that we serve. And the two subject matters that obviously are at the forefront for me, and because of the need and the concern, is public education, education in general, but public education, higher ed, and healthcare. And there's a significant amount of money not included in this budget that is not even close to current spending. And for that reason, I find it very hard to get behind and support this. You're right, and I wholeheartedly agree with you that this is, quite frankly, the best you can represent as chairman of this important committee, based on what you hear from the other chamber. And I certainly would like to see a different attitude, a different approach. It's unfortunate, and I wish we could pass a bill that would allow us to look at revenue raising in this chamber. I think the overall process would be more productive. I have always felt that not only being inclusive is important, but finding consensus and looking at compromising and how we approach legislation, and especially a budget that addresses the needs of this state, should be something that we should all be involved with wholeheartedly. I don't believe, though, that by voting against House Bill 1, we would be in any way endangering the two-thirds vote, because all it does is it allows us to send a personal message based on how we represent our district or what we would like to see happen overall. There's a lot in this budget that I don't know how it's going to impact my district. I know there'll be a lot of cuts. I know a lot of teachers will not come back next year. This budget passes. Nurses and so many other people will be impacted. But the biggest worry of all, and I thank you for making it better than the House, but the biggest worry of all is the final document will be nowhere close to the Senate document that we worked on in finance. And I joined in voting, for fiscal matters, because I realized how important that bill was, and all 12 Democrats voted for that so that that bill could succeed and pass. And I'll continue to take part in any effort that will bring stability to this state and will address the true needs of the people of this state. And every session that I've been here since '87, I have witnessed the state of Texas come to us to ask us to consider this or that based on what their highest needs are in their community. In every session, we've addressed those more or less. This session is probably one where we don't look at all the complete options that are available in this state. We have a $1 trillion economy. This state is not broke. And I would hope that we could show a little bit more compassion for those that are not as fortunate as we are. But I thank you for your efforts. I truly do. You're a good man.
Well, thank you, Senator Lucio.
Senator Lucio, to the best of my ability, this budget is as compassionate as it can be in the context with which we operate. We focused on public education funding. We focused on health care. We restored rates when nursing homes told us that if we didn't, they would probably close. Unlike 2003, We haven't reduced eligibility or changed policies so fewer people will receive state services. We've maintained funding for all people who are eligible for state services. If you go back to 2003, and I don't remember if you budgeted this or not, we actually changed rules that basically took people off the Medicaid rolls, took people off of the CHIP rolls, made eligibility requirements higher so fewer people would qualify. We do none of that in this bill, none of that. And so, understanding that there's only so much that one chamber can do, this is a pretty compassionate budget. And the other thing I'd like to appeal to you, Senator, is, you know, I've been listening to this for 10 days now, that, you know, your budget's not so bad, Ogden, but we figure when it gets over to conference, it's going to look a lot different, and we can't afford to take that chance. Well, here's the reality, and here is the problem that everybody's got to face up to. The more members that vote for this budget, the easier it's going to be for me to fight for it. And so any additional votes for this budget makes it easier as Chairman of Finance to defend the budget. But if our House is divided, the other House, which appears not to be so divided because of their overwhelming majority, has a huge negotiating advantage. So I would ask you again to consider your vote to suspend on this bill. I think it is compassionate, and I think the more votes I can get for this bill, the more likely it is that this will ultimately become the law of this state.
Mr. Chairman, this budget is more compassionate in the House, but is not compassionate enough. Not when you cut $5.5 billion total from public education and over 6 or 7 out of Health and Human Services. If we were looking at least current spending, we're not even looking at growth and additional need, but I appreciate your efforts. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Senator.